methodology to know whether she's actually...
No, I wouldn't, but I would say that that's
Does it matter?
knowledge. I mean, of course, it's subjective opinion.
No, is it important to you?
Yes, I would say subjectively
Good.
it's important
So,
to me.
so the science here is actually blind because it doesn't give you the tools to find out whether she's the right person for you, right?
I think there's probably a biological explanation for attractiveness. I mean, humans have a biological disposition to mate.
So would you use science here?
Well, I think, you could break it down to science.
No, would you, Perry?
Socially, I wouldn't. I wouldn't socially. As in, I wouldn't start breaking it down.
You, as you, who you are.
Science would help.
No, as you, who you are, would you use science in this case?
Subjectively, no. Subjectively,
Good.
yeah.
So now you're saying, in life's decision about knowing the reality, there are times where you would not use the scientific method.
Well, but I wouldn't say that that's really knowing something. If you have an opinion on a subject,
isn't that knowing something?
For example, if there's a beautiful painting, and I say I think this painting is better than that painting, that's not really knowledge. That's it. That's just an opinion. So it's not.
What is knowledge?
What is knowledge? Well, I would think it's a fantastic question. So knowledge is justified, true belief. And of course, I knew Gessier refuted that kind of definition of knowledge. Although I think generally it's helpful. I mean,
so today is Sunday. Is that my belief?
Yes, that's your belief. Yeah.
And your belief too.
Yeah, it's my belief. It's Sunday.
Why are we saying this is a belief?
Well, because we believe it to be true.
What is this belief based on?
On the fact that it's Sunday, so we're justified. Because we
so, are you going to use a scientific method to establish that this is our belief is correct?
The Earth is spinning, and that's how the days are divided up. Through, I mean, it's not.
So, using scientific methodology,
yes,
we
use science.
We can know our belief is true.
Yeah, empiricism. Yeah, we use it. We empirically verify it's a Sunday. Yes.
Yeah. So, is science the only tool to arrive at truth and knowledge?
Empirical observation, yes, is the only way we can arrive
according
to knowledge about the universe.
According to who?
According to that's the standard of knowledge that we have used since
according
the Enlightenment, and we've discovered so much more.
Perry, according to which experts says that the only tool to know the reality about knowledge is the scientific method? What scientific experiments did we do to arrive at that assertion?
But it's a standard of knowledge. It's not a claim in and of
Before
itself.
you call something axiomatic, what experiment?
What's your standard? Because I've given my standard.
I'm telling you, first of all, before you understand how to prove the existence of God or not, we need to have a common ground. We don't have a common ground yet.
Right now we have no common ground.
Exactly. So I want to establish a common ground.
Yes.
So if we say the scientific method is the only tool that can lead us to the truth or knowledge of reality,
yes.
Before we actually did any experimentation of any kind, how were we even able to make that assertion?
So what you're saying is, why should we trust the scientific method?
No.
Is that your question?
You're making an assertion that science is the only tool to know the reality. Did we do an experiment to know that?
Yes.
What experiments did you do to know that?
So I was just saying that is my opinion, yes. Science
I'm not asking for opinion.
But it's the only tool. I would say that if you look at the Enlightenment...
What experiments?
I can tell you, look at this.
No, Perry.
This is
what experiments did we do to come to this axiomatic truth?
Yeah, but it's a standard of truth.
No.
It's a standard of knowledge.
Where did that standard of truth come?
It's a standard of knowledge.
Perry, where did that standard come?
It comes from the Enlightenment. It comes from the Enlightenment.
I don't understand. If you're going to make
the idea that we've got to discover things through science is from
if
the
you're going to make a, if you're going to make a
greatest
standard,
yes.
we need to know how did we arrive at this standard.
Well, we arrived in the Enlightenment.
How did we arrive at that standard? What experiments did you do?
We said we're not going to just believe in the Holy Scriptures or whatever the church is saying. We're going to reject that as a standard.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
To find truth through science.
I'm going to move on. The reason being, perhaps I wasn't clear enough to explain to you why you're missing the point.
Yes.
Because to say the scientific tool is the only method to arrive at the truth, you need to know the experiments to result in that assertion.
Why?
But you haven't done...
Why?
Because the whole scientific method is experimentation, observation, making inferences. But you're already axiomatically accepting that statement without making any experiments. Or you're saying, we did experiments, and then based on that experiments, we know the only way of knowing the truth is experimentation.
Perhaps we can find some common ground if you give your standard.
But do you see the problem? Do you see the problem?
That I'm already making a claim that isn't backed up by science.
I am saying our foundational agreement is not happening because your assertion that science is the only way of knowing the reality, you haven't demonstrated that with anything. You just made an assertion of faith. This is your faith claim.
This is not an assertion of faith. If you look at what we've discovered about the world since adopting,
how do you demonstrate the truth value of this assertion?
But look at our discoveries. You cannot deny the extraordinary nature of science. Since we rejected just blind faith and started looking at the body for medicine, our medical knowledge has improved massively since the Enlightenment because we've used science. That is proof that science is the way to get to the truth, the results.
Don't get me wrong, Perry.
Yeah.
Science is a method to know some things about the reality.
Yes.
But it cannot answer all the questions. For example, God is not within our universe. That is the theistic belief system. Can you do any experiments to know whether God exists or not? Can you use the scientific method to answer the question, does God exist?
No, you can't, and that's why I don't believe in God.
Wait.
Science doesn't answer that.
Slow down.
Science can't
because science is not equipped in its methodological standpoint.
The way God is defined is you can't empirically verify
So
him.
that means then, to know about God existing, you have to use other than the scientific method. Do you agree?
But you're already assuming God exists. You're saying,
I'm not assuming.
To know that God exists,
No. To know whether God exists or not.
If science found out that
Perry,
God existed today,
Perry,
you would accept
Why are you
science.
misrepresenting what I'm saying?
I'm not misrepresenting.
What am I saying?
You're saying.
I am saying whether God exists or not. Do you hear me?
I see. Sorry,
right.
I didn't hear that.
Right.
Okay,
or not.
Okay, fine.
Can we use the scientific method? The answer is no. Because it is beyond the remits of scientific methodology. That means to know the answer to this question, we have to go other than scientific methodology. Do you agree?
Well, no, because I don't think it's a question that needs answering.
It's not about...
Let me explain why.
Explain.
You're saying there's an invisible, omnipotent, omnipresent...
I'm not saying anything. I'm simply saying
whether there is... Maybe you're not saying there's a God, but to the theist who says there's a God, they'll say there is this God. However, there is absolutely no way you can verify his existence.
Who said that? Which people are you talking to?
What I'm saying is that the scientific method is the only way we can verify.
But I'm saying
anything.
Science is crippled to answer this question.
Defining God out of the scientific method means that you can't answer the question, but that's just words.
So that means you can't use science to answer the question.
So, but what other tools can you use to get to the truth?
So now that you realize then, very good, we're now moving somewhere. We're having some common ground. There are other ways, perhaps, then, than the scientific method.
What other tools are they, though? Because
there has to be. If we have a question about whether God exists or not, we must have an answer, and the science doesn't give us the answer because it is not within the perimeters of scientific. It's not within the scope of the scientific method. No.
But if science discovered God, then you would accept science as a way of finding God.
Scientific methodology, it doesn't have within the scope to answer that question. That means to know this question, there has to be necessarily other ways of arriving to an answer by necessity.
Yes.
Yeah? So now you realize scientific methodology, the scientism, is dogmatic for certain people. We have to come away from this dogmatism and think there are actually other ways, other avenues of knowledge. This is what we call epistemology. How can we know things other than the scientific method? Good. This is a good progression. My next point. Can non-existence give rise to existence?
Well, not in the context of our universe, no.
In any context?
Well, no, because we don't know the relationship between cause and effect with the universe. We don't know that the universe...
Why don't you ask me to define what non-existence is? Then perhaps you probably would better understand what I'm asking.
The absence of anything, I would assume that's what you mean by non-existence.
Good. Non-existence is absence of everything.
Yeah.
And that's all the 9 levels of nothing.
Well, I would say 2 things to that. First of all, we can't be certain that the universe needs a cause.
I didn't ask you any of that.
But secondly,
why are you jumping the gun? It's like question begging.
I can see where
it's not about where I'm getting. I'm asking you a simple question.
Okay, well,
Perry,
I can answer.
No, a simple question.
In the context of this universe, no.
No, don't tell me a context. in what we can understand about this world, because we are within this world. Are you outside this world?
Yeah, within this world, I would
So
agree. Yeah,
can you
no,
meaningfully say anything outside the world?
well, no.
Good, then don't talk about it then. Within what we can understand, within the paradigm that we are in, within the knowledge tools that we have, can non-existence give rise to existence?
No.
Good. Since we are in existence, could it be the result of non-existence bringing about this existence?
Well, here's the thing: the universe doesn't necessarily need a cause. I can see that's where you're going.
I didn't ask about cause or
that's
anything.
exactly what you're asking.
I am
You're asking
simp-
how did we come into existence?
No,
What
I'm
caused our
not
existence?
asking you anything like that. I'm simply saying, since you and I exist,
Yes.
can our existence be the result of non-existence at some point in the past? Could there have been non-existence before?
Could there have been non-existence? There's nothing before.
Could there have been nothing before and then the existence came?
I don't know. I don't know.
You do know.
So,
Perry, you do know. Try again. You do know.
I would
Because
say
you
that the
said
universe simply
you said
is.
non-existence cannot give rise to existence. That means if something exists today, could there be a time when there was absolute nothingness?
I would say that the universe. Why do you think the universe can't come from nothing? Or let me rephrase that. Why do you think it needs a cause?
Let me ask you again,
Because
Perry.
you're not answering.
Perry,
we
Perry,
can't do the
let's
debate.
let's
we can't really
let's
have a
let's
conversation if you're not willing to
reframe
answer
it.
my question.
Is it possible for our universe to be at one point in its transformation, as it is, our universe is transforming? Do you agree?
Yes, in a state of
Good.
flux. It's in a state
Within
of
this
flux.
transformation of our universe, could there be a point within its journey of transformation where there was absolute nothingness at one point? Or did it always exist? Did it always exist? Not 13.8 billion years. Did it always exist?
This is the difference, though, between my position. I'm saying I simply don't know the cause of. I simply
What's
don't
my
know
question that you're answering?
How we came into existence.
Perry, what's my question?
Your question is, could there have been a nothingness?
And the answer
I'm
is?
saying I don't know.
You do know. Because you said earlier, nothingness, which is the absence of everything, it cannot give rise to any existence because it itself is non-existent. So nothingness, which doesn't.
Where did you get that rule from?
Okay, let me tell you. Does nothingness have energy? No. Oh yes.
No, it's nothing.
Good. So let me define my nothing. Perhaps you would know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
The nothingness I'm talking about, it doesn't have any space, time, quantum fluctuations. It doesn't have quarks, leptons, anything. It doesn't have potentiality of giving rise to anything. It is simply the absence of every fields, energy, space, time, quantum. All that you can think of is the absence of that. Even the potentiality of bringing about something. That's my nothingness. Could this nothing generate, originate, make, give rise to, bring about anything? I give you lots of synonyms.
No, it couldn't.
It couldn't.
It couldn't.
The fact that we are here now something,
Yes.
it could not be by nothing because nothing cannot make something. So you are now in a position where this something always was in existence, going against your scientific method and the answer that 13.8 billion years of our universe, because our universe has to always exist in some form or another, or the one who brought about this universe had to always exist. There has to be an existence that is always in existence. There cannot be a time in the past, in inverted quotes, I'm using time very loosely, not A theory or B theory, just very loosely, that there was absolute non-existence. There has to be always. My point always means there was nothing absent in any form or shape, always in existence. Do you think it was this universe or the cause of our universe? You don't have any other options.
I want to go back to a point you made, which is I agree with you. It is ridiculous to say that something can come from nothing. That is very true. But that is in the context of this universe. We look, we make observations, we see cause and effect.
In any universe, is it possible?
We see a pebble drop, and then we say, okay, the cause of the pebble dropping, it had to have a cause. But the universe itself, we cannot apply the rules of what is in our universe to the universe. We can't to the wider creation of the universe.
In any universe.
Let me just explain. We are making assertions about nothing coming from something. However, that's an assumption that the universe has to have a cause.
Are you suggesting in other possible universes nothing can give rise to something?
I'm not talking about other universes.
My
Perry,
position, Perry, my position to clarify to you, exists in all possible worlds. In all possible worlds, nothingness cannot bring about something. I'm not limiting to this world.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm saying the creation of the universe itself, not what is in the universe. Because we're only observing what's in the universe. We're not looking at the universe itself when we say everything has to have a cause.
Are you suggesting our universe has always been in existence in every possible universe, or it had a finite existence in our universe, but ultimately there is a necessary, always existent reality in other universes? Because you cannot go away with the fact, now that I've explained what nothingness is, there has to be existence in all times for all eternity.
I didn't claim to know what...
You do know.
What came
I have
before,
given you
the scientific
the knowledge
method
now.
is answering.
Perry, I have given you the knowledge. You can't backtrack. I have given you what nothingness...
But this is only knowledge about...
Wait.
About what's going on in our own world.
In any other...
not the universe itself. So you
my
apply your rule from
reasoning with you
in our
is
universe
our
to the
universe
itself
independent.
as a whole. You're looking at parts to make an
Okay.
assertion about the whole.
Okay, correct me then. Correct me. Is there a possible universe in which nothing can give rise to
No,
something?
I'm not talking about that.
You're saying the universe itself gave rise. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, if you look at our universe, you're saying there's cause and effect, and therefore the universe needs a cause, and that cause is God. That's basically.
I
where
am
your
not
argument's
saying
going.
that, Perry. I am
Okay,
not
even
saying
if you're
that.
not
Saying
saying that.
cause and effect
I have
works
not.
outside the
I have
universe.
not gone to this
I'm saying
point.
it doesn't work outside
Why
the
do you say
universe.
that? On what basis?
Because you can't look at the parts and make an assertion about
no,
the whole.
cause
That's
and
the
effect
fallacy
has-
of
No,
causation.
we're not going into the composition fallacy. I'm not giving you that chance to make
and
me
effect doesn't
committing a fallacy of
depend on
composition. My argument is this: this universe that is now here, either itself is always is in existence, never have been a time where it was nothing, or there are the causes of this universe always in existence. Ultimately, are you suggesting now, just to clarify that point, there may be other universes in which nothing can give rise to something?
No.
Good.
I'm not.
That means it is universally true in all universes that if something exists here now, something has to always exist. Do you accept that?
In universe.
No.
In all
In
universes.
any universe.
Yes, in all
Ask him
universes.
about contingency.
I will.
Yes.
This universe,
Yeah.
because it exists, there has to be an existence that exists always.
Non-contingent, necessary.
Can you clarify that?
I will clarify. The options are something exists, and because of that, something has to always exist, because that makes sense, because nothingness can give rise to something. Or what doesn't make sense is there was absolute nothingness at some point in any universe, our universe or any universe. The fact that we accept nothingness cannot give rise to something and something exists, it follows then logically, reasonably, intellectually, rationally that something has to always exist. I didn't identify what that something is. I'm at least saying something has to exist by necessity, necessary existence.
Necessary existence.
Yes,
You're saying that there has to be
has to be.
necessary existence.
If you disagree, tell me why, so that we can clarify and we
Yes.
can, cross the
I'm-
T's and dot
Okay,
the
yeah,
I's.
I'm curious where you have this rule that everything needs a cause, or everything there has to be.
I'm not
something-
talking about cause or not.
Okay,
I'm
but
saying the
what are you
existence of
talking
something.
about? The existence. Okay, everything. When
Do
you're
you
talking about
accept that-
existence,
do you
though,
accept-
What would you actually mean in practice by existence?
Okay.
Would-
You and I, we exist.
Yes.
We are something.
We occupy a
Right.
physical reality.
Is this something limited to only 13.8 billion years? Or is it always in existence?
What do you mean by existence? A physical,
contingent?
a physical
Is
force.
our
Let me tell you. When there is nothing
Yes.
and there is something, there is this difference, demarcation. Something that possesses maybe space, time, fluctuation, quanta. There's something now different to what nothing is. That's what we are.
I would say-
We are in the space-time reality. We may be composed of materials or energy that fluctuates and give rise to the matter. That's what something is. I am asking you to make that conclusion by knowledge that something has to always exist. by necessity. I know it's very difficult because you know what it entails. The consequences are far-reaching, but you have to make that decision so that we can move forward. Because nothingness cannot make something, and we are something here already, I'm making that point. It follows necessarily there has to be always something in existence. I didn't identify that as a cause or an effect, but I'm saying there has to be an existent reality that is always in existence.
Like the universe.
Whatever, universe or the flying green spaghetti monsters, whatever. There has to be necessarily an existence that exists always.
There has to be a
necessary
existence.
existence.
And you would say that
No,
the universe.
we're not identifying what that is. We're simply accepting that there has to be.
But why? Why does it
Why?
have to be? I know you're giving these reasons, but they are from
Is it unreasonable?
observations.
Is it unreasonable?
When you say
What's the other
existence,
alternative?
my alternative is that the universe simply is, and we
Always?
we can't understand.
Is it always?
We only can use science to get to the truth.
No,
That's
we're
my
not. We've
original-
dealt with that already. We
Using
don't need
not
science.
using
Perry,
word
you're
games and talking
backtracking
about
now.
Did you
necessary.
just say the universe was always there?
Do you consider the universe always been there? That's my other potential.
I don't know. I can't
but
say.
Look.
Science have-
The options are the universe has always been there, or something that transformed this universe into existence has always been there. You can have.
Okay, I would say, yeah, I'll say the universe has always been there.
Good,
I can
good.
say
So
that.
now we accept another level of agreement, foundational agreement between us.
Independent.
So there is this universe or something that has to be always there. You're saying that's the universe.
I'm saying the universe is independent, so it doesn't need a cause. That's
I
my
am
argument.
saying it has to
So-
always be there.
so, yeah,
Why is it so difficult to accept that assertion?
I just want to clarify that I'm saying the universe is independent. It doesn't necessarily need a cause.
Okay, so the
That's
universe
my
is
position.
independent.
Yes.
Based on what?
Well, what would the alternative be?
Now you tell me based on,
Well,
if you
then
make
what
an
would the
assertion,
alternative be?
what are your reasonings to say the universe is independent, self-sufficient, that it
Because-
exists by
because
necessity?
The alternative is the existence of God, and that does not honour Occam's
No, but
razor.
there's a claim. Can you
That doesn't
substantiate the claim?
go for
Look,
Occam's
look.
razor. But once either the universe has a
You need
cause
to
or it
substantiate
doesn't.
the claim.
If it doesn't have a cause,
If you make an
it simply
assertion,
came into being.
if you make an assertion,
Yes.
you should give positive claim for that assertion. The universe is independent because of X, Y, and Z. Go on, tell me. I'm willing to listen.
Well, either if it isn't independent, it would need a creator, and that creator you would say is God. Although God is, it doesn't fit into Occam's razor, because when you're explaining something, you should go for the explanation with the least assumptions. And God is an assumption to explain the creation of the universe, existence of the universe. That is what God is. When humans try
Who's
to
talking about
understand-
God? Forget,
Yeah, but
forget
they're two-
talking about the
but there's-
alternatives.
but there are-
Your alternative, your option is not the
You need to
alternative.
substantiate your claim. because
Your
you said
position.
My
it's
claim.
independent.
Yes, it's
So on
independent.
what
That's my
basis do you
claim.
say that?
Based on what?
Because there's no alternative. That's
no,
why.
no, that's not how science
What is the best
You see-
explanation?
you see, look.
What's your explanation?
What all you're doing is you're trying to shift the burden on someone else. You make the claim the universe is independent.
The onus is on
You
you.
should be able to demonstrate, not only tell us, demonstrate, and then we will be convinced of that demonstration by reason and intellect and rationality.
What is the alternative?
The alternative is on me to demonstrate. You make an assertion that it's independent, you demonstrate to us, and we will do the critique.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
if the universe is not independent, it would have to be dependent. What would it be dependent on? It would have to be dependent on a necessary being. The necessary being, we have absolutely no way of verifying existence. And why? Why would the necessary being not have a cause in itself? Why? Because in order for there to be a being that was eternal, it would have to come. If a being was eternal,
You're contradicting yourself.
I know.
You realize
I'm sorry. It's just,
You're saying it's impossible for a necessary being to exist, and then you're saying the universe is the necessary being.
I would say, why
Have
can't
you
the
realised
universe
that?
simply be? The universe is eternal.
Because the scientific
There is no-
consensus says it's 13.8
If something
billion years.
cannot come
It's
from
finite.
nothing, then where would God come from?
So now you
that would be
reject
my
your scientific
question.
methodology and whole of science you throw under
No,
the
I'm
bus
saying if-
because science is saying, using the scientific methodology, the universe is how old?
13.8 billion years.
Not eternal. 13.78 billion years old.
But we don't know what came
Or 7 or
before,
8,
so
yeah?
there could have been another form of the universe.
Good, good. Getting somewhere. So there could be other transformation of our universe.
Yes.
Good. So when you have transformation happening, is this happening by a conscious agency who has a will, knows what's transforming, or it just happens by accident? Does the universe inherently possess the characteristics of will, consciousness? How does it transform things?
It doesn't have consciousness, no, the universe.
So if it doesn't have consciousness and yet it transforms things into one state to another.
Why can't it just be in a state of flux anyway?
And I want to know, you believe in an entity called the universe, which transforms, which makes organisms like yourself and ourselves, human beings, with intricate design and complexity and harmony and precision engineering. And yet, that thing is not conscious. So if I give you a non-conscious entity, like a piece of paper, can this piece of paper make a human being?
No.
It cannot design a human being.
No, it can't.
Because it doesn't have the ability to do so. To have the ability to means it needs to be aware that it needs to plan and design and do all of these things.
Well, not a piece
So
of
the
paper,
the universe is not a conscious entity. So how does it go about do things and transform things?
Well, it's a state of chaos, and from that chaos comes order, it would seem.
No, there is no chaos and order. The universe demonstrates that there is order and precision. That's why we have the universal constants. So in our universe in particular, we can't talk about other universes because we haven't proven them yet scientifically about their characteristics, if they indeed exist or not. As a Muslim, we don't have a problem of other universes. In fact, God tells us He's the Lord of all universes, all that exist, many worlds. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Not one world, many worlds. So you have now something that Islam tells us, the existence of many worlds. So, this world that we live in, we know that this world has many transformations, and yet there are physical constants. I'm sure you have heard about those physical constants, so precise that if you change a little bit here and there, instead of 22 decimal places, 1 decimal place change, it will not function the way it is. That's how precise they are. This precision, you're saying, it just happened. I am saying, it doesn't make sense because we now have to make a best explanation. The best explanation of transformation, let me give you an example. If we have no conscious agency and we have all the materials in flux, just imagine now I have the tea bags spread on the floor, right? You get a tea bag, rip it up and spread on the floor.
Right.
You get milk from the bottle and you just spill it on the floor. You have the fridge, but it's not in the fridge. You have the match to make the fire, you have the cooker, you have the water to the tap, and you make the tap so tight that it doesn't open, right? Okay. You need water, milk, sugar, and tea, and the cup or the mug to make tea, right? You sit there without a conscious agent being present, because there is no consciousness. There is no willing agents. Now, with this material that you have in your disposition, would a cup of tea with 2 sugars ever be made?
If there's no one there to make it, then no.
So if there is no conscious agency, that transformation will never happen.
Well, yeah, not under those conditions, but it's a
Good.
completely false.
Why is that a false analogy?
It's a false
The universe,
analogy because the universe can't be reduced to a cup of tea.
the universe has done much more precise, engineered transformation than a cup of tea. And yet you're saying it just can happen.
It's a false analogy because under those conditions, obviously a cup of tea can't be made. That's quite obvious to us.
What conditions does the universe have that it makes all these beautiful, complex, organized entities which function in our universe in this governed way? What conditions was there in the universe? In our early universes, it was supposed to be chaos. In our early form of our universe, chaos. And yet you're saying within this chaos, somehow, without a conscious agency, now you're telling me to think, right? Somehow, without a conscious entity, they gathered all of this together into due proportion. Quran says God is the one, just to give you a comparison, God is the one who brings everything in due proportion. He proportionates things. He is the one, He makes fasawaha. He fashions them, molds them into due proportion. like in the genetic makeup that you are. Otherwise, you might be an elephant rather than a human being. But because of your genetic makeup is such design, you only become a human being from the cells as they grow and divide and dry in the womb of your mother. So the universe, as you said at one stage, it wasn't conscious, with no will, no consciousness, no self-awareness, and yet it made all of that. And we are supposed to accept that by blind faith. It makes no sense. What is the best explanation? Explanation that it just happens is not the best of explanation because it doesn't make any sense. What makes sense, which will be a better explanation, is there is a conscious engineer, designer, originator, gatherer, assembler that assembled and transform all of these things. That is a better explanation, and we should always go for a better explanation, not the one which is the least of the explanations which make sense.
I'll test your explanation. I have a few things. First of all, what do you think? Because I would say the universe is composed of atoms. The universe is simply atoms, and everything else is a matter of opinion. Atoms, chemical reactions, and so forth. What would you say?
Did they decide to be? Did they decide to make those reactions as they are?
No. It was random chaos. But your explanation involves this creator. What is the substance?
No, I'm saying you've got two explanations.
If he's interacting with this universe.
No. You don't know what I mean by God. You have a necessary existence which is either the universe or something else. Conscious or unconscious. Which is a better explanation for our reality? You're saying it's unconscious universe is a better explanation. I don't see any reason to accept that because it makes no sense. Everything that we see in our universe demonstrates to us that you need a conscious agency with a will who can transform all of these things. Even a cup of tea would not happen ever for millions and zillions and quadrillions and Googleplex years because of what's needed to make that transformation. So better explanation is personal agency, which is self-aware, self-conscious. That is what we called a rational explanation, a rational position to take. Your position is irrational. Magic, it just happens. Chaos, it makes no sense. We have a better explanation from what we observe in reality. I am not bringing something from outside the reality. In reality, we don't see things just popping into all this transformation. You know what? You throw some parts in a junkyard and there you go, Boeing 707 or next generation of iPhone happening. Never happens. Chaos never generates this kind of order and precise engineered objects.
You talk about order and chaos not being able to produce that, but why not? Because the cup of tea analogy, it's a false analogy. You're saying, you can't even make a cup of tea without the conscious agent.
I just gave you the whole universe, the way they are. Everything that is rotating and having on its orbit, the forces of nature within our physical constants, we see attractions and repulsions. All of that is so intricate and so precise. And yet you're saying, that's all chaos?
And with God, if you look at
you don't know what God is. We're not talking about God. We're talking about. Look. I didn't even say God.
You did.
I did not. I said a conscious agency, which is necessarily always existence, or an unconscious agency.
A conscious agent, though, who's necessarily existed, is a necessary being, is the definition of God.
No, I haven't defined God
but
yet.
A necessary being.
No. You're jumping the gun. I have given you two options, Perry. My two options are, you have a necessary existence which is self-aware or not self-aware. And I have examined both. What is a better explanation? Self-aware or not self-aware? I just demonstrated to you from our observations of even using the scientific methodology. What makes sense, reasonably, rationally, intellectually, is a self-aware necessary existence to explain the reality. Your explanation of the necessary existence which is not self-aware is not an explanation of anything. It doesn't give us a better explanation. We should always go for a better explanation. You don't have an explanation which makes sense.
We're talking about, the physical reality.
Yeah.
Consciousness is just a byproduct of our biology.
Self-awareness.
Reality, self-awareness, exactly.
Self-awareness is not a byproduct of anything. Self-awareness is a characteristic of something that is aware of itself. You say the independent is either self-aware or it's not. Which one is it? That thing that exists necessarily.
Consciousness can't come out of
let me redefine what I mean by consciousness yet, because it's a loaded language. Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
In your existence that exists always, the universe, is it self-aware that it exists?
What's your question? Is the universe
The
self-aware?
universe that you are
No.
postulating
No,
that
the
is always in
universe is not
existence.
self-aware, definitely
Good.
not.
So how can it then explain about all the transformation that are happening when it itself is not aware? Imagine now, I don't even.
Chaos of the atoms interacting with one another. That's what it is. It's mad. You can't just claim that. You're saying that my explanation
So look,
is the fantastical one.
a something that exists
If you're talking about there being a conscious agent, someone who's self-aware, a self-aware universe, and that would be an absurdity. Universe is aware of itself, and the universe is.
You need an explanation for this transformation that we see, which are so precise. So you're saying the transformation can happen without the universe being self-aware by the theory called chaos. That's what you're postulating.
Yes,
but I'm saying, in our reality, we don't see chaos producing order, precision engineered things. The rules that are there so precise in our universe, constants rather, you cannot explain that by chaos theories. You need something that is self-aware to make that into this precise way it is. Otherwise, everything will why isn't things falling apart? In every way that chaos. Why isn't everything chaotic now?
Well, it is.
Because they're following a particular rule. That rule, is it acquired or is it inherent?
The rules of the universe are inherent in the universe.
Right. So the rules of the universe are inherent within this universe. So now you have an entity that has rules to organize things into precision. Does it make sense that you have an entity that has inherent rules of organizing things into precision engineering for a particular function it does, and yet it is devoid of knowledge and self-awareness? Does it make sense?
Do you mind repeating your question?
Okay. The universe you claim, you postulate, is inherently possessor of these rules in which things will be organized in a precision, orderly fashion, such that a little bit here and there will be disastrous, but it does maintain that order. It controls and it governs, and it is in control of that particular system. The whole system is so controlled, right? All these rules are so precise. Does it make sense that without something knowledgeable, something self-aware being there, and yet you have all these precision rules? How do you even envisage this kind of understanding that, it's like saying, oh no, this computer by itself is just there. It just popped into existence by itself, and yet it's knowledgeable. It can beat you in chess. Makes no sense. We have to have a better explanation. The better explanation is always something that is self-aware, conscious. That's what self-awareness is, as well as possessor of will. Without will, T would not happen. Without will, transformation would not happen.
I would say that if there is a conscious being that's created these rules, then what would have to create him? Imagine the complexity
Necessarily existent.
of this being.
No, it has to necessarily exist. That's where Brother Hashim earlier on, Ustad Hashim mentioned about contingency. If we are here today and everything is dependent, our existence necessarily has to depend on something independent. Otherwise, you are back to the same question. How do dependent things exist by themselves and be here? Dependent things requires an explanation, and they can only be explained in the best possible way by saying it depends on something that is independent. It doesn't need another explanation for it. That's the best explanation. So our universe can only be, because everything is contingent, dependent on something that's not contingent. And that is the necessary existence which exists with all the attributes of perfection and no limitation. Because otherwise it will be limited to, again, how is it limited? How is it constrained? Because if we are dependent on something that necessarily exists, it cannot be constrained in any way, shape or form, because it exists by necessity. So you cannot put a limit to it in any way, shape or form. That's why that thing that necessarily exists will be totally absolute, not the opposite of absolute, absolute. So absolute existence, which will also demonstratively be something that has the will that brought about this existence. Because if you don't will, imagine there is an absolute necessary existence. and this necessary existence doesn't will anything to happen, nothing will happen. Nothing will ever happen. So it has to come from a will, an intent. And that's why we are here. So to believe in a originator of our universe, let's call it that, because that's what Quran says, Badi'us samawati wal ard, the one who originates the universe, is something that is reasonable to assert. It's not something that's a blind faith. It is something which is the best explanation using all the available tools that human beings have been given. Scientific methodology, as well as the metaphysical tools of reason and intellect and rationality. Because science itself, as you know, is based on this assumption that the universe is rational. And based on that axiomatic truth of rationality, we try to explain this universe. So you see, axiomatically we've affirmed it has to be rational, it has to be meaningful. So we are saying we have all of these tools, and using these tools, we know for sure there is a necessary existence, and there has to be one of those absolutes, not many. If there are many of these absolutes, there will be always conflict of will. One of them says, I don't want to create, or what you created, I'm going to destroy it. Let's see if you can keep it all-powerful, absolute, and yet he's unable to keep his creation, or keep its creation. Conflict of will, like two drivers in a car with independent steering wheel, it's not going to go either way. Conflict of will, it'll be chaos. That's why in the Quran, Allah says, لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. Had there been more than one deities, there will be chaos, corruption and ruin. So it is only reasonable, Perry, to believe, correction, to ascertain with certainty that there is an originator of our universe, and which is one. And once you know that there is an originator that created or originated or made this universe, next question is, why? For what reason? You can speculate all you want, but you will never arrive at the correct answer without some kind of skepticism. And that's why when the creator communicates, this originator communicates and tells us why the originator created us, only then we would know. And this is what we're saying is, the reason we are here is to express our gratitude to this creator. That's one of the essence of worship of our creator. If someone gave you a life of continuation after an accident,
Yes.
gave you blood, kidneys, heart, lungs, whatever, which you almost destroy in an accident, you would be thankful to that individual. When this originator gave you all of that, and the means to sustain it, the food, the water, the oxygen and everything, our natural response should be one of gratitude. And that's the relationship that we have with our originator. So when we say God, what we mean by a being that deserves our gratitude.
Yes. A being that deserves our gratitude, that's what
Yes.
you mean by God.
Yes.
I see. Well, my response to the belief that there is an originator and there is God is that he interacts with us. So first of all, how would he interact with us? And secondly, how can we be certain that the universe needs a cause? Why can't you just accept the universe simply is?
I accepted your argument, and I did my criticism in saying, if the universe just is, without being self-aware, without possessing of will,
Chaos, evolution. If we look at ourselves, we are the products of chaos. There's survival for the fittest.
we are not product of chaos.
If you look at the human,
There is no such
we
thing
come
as
from
chaos.
the sea. We came from,
No, no. Give me an example of
our
chaos.
ancestors.
Give me an example of
Well,
chaos.
what I would say that the universe is chaotic.
It's not
Our
chaotic.
existence is chaotic.
Is the sun rotating in an
Of
orbit?
course, that's not chaos. Though it
So
will
what is
blow
chaos?
Up. It will blow up eventually.
No,
and
that's not
everyone will
chaos.
die. So, you
That
know,
is not chaos, Perry.
It
It is a rule
it's
that is
come out,
following.
it's been
because
born out of chaos.
no,
It's
it's
been
not.
born out of
No, that's an
chaos.
assumption. All we see is precise engineering throughout our universe. In this world, in biology, in physics, in astrophysics, everywhere, precise engineering. I don't see any chaos. When you say like, oh, fractals, they're not chaos. They're following a rule. They're following a pattern.
If you look at cancer, for example, I mean, if there was this originator,
Yeah.
disease is an example of
It's not chaos.
and death.
It's not chaos.
Why
Let me tell you what cancer is.
Why would God put all these diseases and natural disasters? That's chaotic.
That's not
There's
chaotic.
earthquakes and,
Let me tell you why this is not chaotic. There is this law of a human body, which is the genetic code. These codons that you have, guanine, you are familiar with this, or I'll just leave them, right? The triplet codon that that gives rise to a particular code, then that codes for a particular protein, right? It's a program. Now, of course, if you mess up with this program by some kind of external radiation, for example, and then the machine that translates, transcripts, and do that programming and manifestation of that, it's like a machinery, right? You have the ribosomes, you have the messenger RNA, all of that comes to the machine. It does its jobs well. But once you have something happening because of like say, some kind of radiations happening that interferes with that, then it's not going to do its job properly. That interference is going to cause some problems. So it's actually there, the system is there, but because of certain things, you can have this transcription errors, translation errors, that's what we call like mutations happening, right? Mutations, they're not happening by random, they're happening because of the equations that are already there. Something if you have put there, radiation, of course you expect some kind of change happening with these translations. The Creator did not create us other than to be fit for purpose. He did not create us in a body that is going to be always continuously living and be there like a perfect body. There was not this plan of this Creator. This is a universe that's been created for a temporary time in which we have to fulfill a particular function. We will die and everything will perish. And that is self-evident. Everything is decaying. Yeah? Radioactive decay or otherwise, everything is decaying. Our solar system will decay eventually. So all of this is a rule placed by the originator. But then there will be another recreation of another reality in which our existence will be different. We will then live forever, either in a place of happiness or a place of torment. That is what you are thinking like, why isn't it like that? That will be there. We are here because we have been given an amount of free will. We are being tested on our free will, whether we are exercising it correctly and appropriately or not. Based on that, we will have the consequences. Because the originator has created this particular creation, he could have created us like robots, for example, with no chance of disobeying. You just do whatever they want to do. That's like the angels, who cannot disobey anything of the will of the Creator. They only do what the originator does. But we have been given another faculty of choice in which by using that you can become better than the angels, or you can become lower than the animals using the faculty. So that's demonstrating the originator's creative power and his majesty. Look, he can create creations with so many different kinds. Either you have total autonomy of, or in a limited sense of course, of disbelief or not disbelief, or fully like robots. This is an appreciation that we have, like when I have the appreciation that I can actually willingly disobey, and then you don't, then you are becoming someone who is being, truthful to the purpose of our creation.
Okay, well, your moral outlook is very interesting. I do find it extraordinary, the idea of an afterlife and the soul. You have to accept the soul exists if you believe in the afterlife. You have to believe that the soul will go either to hell or to heaven. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So
it's interesting. It is fascinating. I do think that really there's a totally different paradigm here, because I can see that you believe that we can make claims about the universe and what will happen afterwards and what came before by logic, looking at a reasoning. And I'm saying that the only way we can really get to the truth, the only tool we have is the scientific method. And defining God as a necessary being is I won't go back into all of that.
Sure.
But I think perhaps it would be quite difficult to find some common ground. So I might just go and get some food and things. But it was talking. And
pleasure speaking to you. So one thing I would humbly request you is to look at the Quran if you haven't done so already. The Quran grounds all of these reasonable things that we're having discussions about. Yes. The Quran gives us the reason. In fact, you'll be surprised.
It's the most gracious and merciful. Is that right?
No, you'll be surprised.
Is that the beginning of the chapter? It's the most gracious and merciful. Right.
Yeah,
okay. I understand.
The Quran even addresses the unbelievers. It says, look, it's something like this. أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون. This is the Arabic, because the Quran is in the Arabic language. It says, do not the unbelievers, the people who do not believe in God or in Islam, see, have they not known already that the heavens and the earth and anything that's between, was joined together as one piece, was already as a singularity, one piece. And God parted it asunder, and He brought forth every living thing from water. Would they then not believe? The Quran is addressing who? Muslims? No. The Quran is addressing those who disbelieve. But what does it do at the end? Rhetorically ask, would you then not believe? Meaning in the middle of this address and rhetorical question at the end, it offers some kind of avenues of reflection. It says, do you not see the heavens and the earth? Everything was joined together as one piece. That's as far as we can understand in our many models of our universe today. And there was this separation from that singularity.
Yes.
That's what we understand now. The Quran is saying 1400 years ago, my friend Perry, that this, do you not see that? And every living thing was from water, brought from water. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Every living thing is brought from water. That means all life is somehow dependent or constituent of water. So a man in the desert 1440 something years ago who had hardly any water to drink is saying all life is based on water. Did he go deep down in a dead volcano or deepest of the oceans to know that this is the case? Did he actually have all these powerful telescopes or the scientific and mathematical, the equations that we have today to know the universe is at one point was a singularity and expanding? So this is something that the Quran, just give you one example, addresses, not say you believe, but it rekindles your intellect to say think and reflect, and then would you then not believe? The Quran is always asking you to submit and surrender to this reality, the origin of the universe, by your self-submission and surrender. Once you do that, then you elevate yourself from just thinking like a slave in the machinery of economy and our financial system or whatever, but it elevates you to thinking who you are really in the grand scheme of things in this universe. Then you realize you are somebody, and you're not going to just simply live your life and die and the worm comes and eats you. There's a meaning of life.
Yes.
Perry, you
right,
need to eat some
thank you.
food.
Yes,
Nice speaking to you. Perhaps we can speak again.
Yes, I
but do read
so.
the Quran.
I will actually have a look. It's an important thing, obviously. But and it's very interesting. And I thank you very much. And have a good evening.
I think you've got someone's mics on there, so let me give the plug to them. Whose mic is this? Thank you. And we meet again.
Yes.
Take care. There you go. What is this? آخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
His country does not allow it. His country, if you say something.
That's these two mics.
Czech Republic.
Oh, that's these two. Yeah, I know where Czech Republic.